Greetings, I'm Emmett, and in my previous video, I made this knife. Well, it needed a sheath, and I made this with a friend. It was the first sheath that I've made, and since I was doing it at a friend's house, kind of using some of his tools, I think maybe I was a little awkward and didn't quite put it together right. And so this video, I'm going to fix it, because it didn't end up shaped quite right. This is very loose. The tightest part was actually the mouth here, and that's part of the problem. Actually, I think it's kind of a trifecta of issues. The glue didn't really hold around here, and I put the belt strap too close to this side. And just something about the combination of that, like when you pull it out, the blade wants to kind of like tilt towards the seam. And since the glue didn't hold and that leather piece is just kind of free in there, the blade just ended up slicing right through the threads. Plus, I don't think I used the right thread for it. I was having trouble threading. Like, I have a thicker leather thread, but I was having trouble getting it in the needle. So I used a lighter thread, and that may be part of the problem as well. So I think what I want to do is just take out all the stitching and put it back together, hopefully the right way. I want to adjust this strap, maybe instead of here, like put it more down a little bit and a little more centered. Then I'm going to use contact cement to glue this spacer piece in there, because initially it was just glued in with wood glue. Contact cement should theoretically be a little firmer. At least it's what I'm familiar with. And then I'm going to stitch it a little tighter with some heavier thread. All right. So I kept messing up a little on the stitching. I did find a needle that was big enough for that cotton thread to fit through, but then I snapped the needle trying to force it through the leather holes. So I went back to using the smaller needles, which meant I needed to use a smaller thread. But I did have some more of that braiding cord that I had used before, like on this chainmail here, which I have a video on. I just used some braiding cord, which that stuff used to look a little more natural. I don't know exactly if it was like cotton or something like that previously. I just know it used to be a little bit more flexible and like had kind of that softer touch, whereas then now it is definitely like nylon or something plasticky. So if I was making anything that I wanted to be a little more authentic, I don't know if I would use it, but it is durable. It is small enough to fit in my needle, and it works for what I need it to do. When it was all stitched up, I tanned it with a little bit of vegetable oil, and that's about it. It definitely fits a lot better now, and the glue seems to be holding up, which means the stitching is holding up and the knife isn't trying to cut through anything that it's not supposed to cut through. And I did cut a little bit of the tip and stitch that to try and make it tighter at the top instead of at the mouth, or would that be the bottom? You know what I mean. Tighter at the tip, wider at the mouth. That's kind of how it's supposed to work. It's not that tight. There is just a little bit of kind of a grab there. I could have probably made this stitch go down farther. That would help it kind of grab sooner. But other than that, I think it works pretty well for a first sheath, because this is a very simple thing to make. I just kind of goofed a little the first time around. But, you know, practice makes perfect. It's just something that I have to figure out as I go along. But yeah, thank you for watching, and if you missed how I made this knife, that video should be the previous video on my channel. And as I mentioned, I have a video about making this chainmail and putting the leather on the trim. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Since this cord is nylon, that means that I can melt the tips, because there was one of my nuts that came undone and started to fray a little bit. I can just set it on fire and it'll melt down to a little lump, and that will seal up the threads. That's one of the perks of synthetic material, I guess.